Finsweet, agency, product, community. That's effing sweet.
Sweet, 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 sweet. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another technical live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about serverless databases. We're going to be exploring the service from Cloudflare that is called Cloudflare D1. So, excited for this, and I see already some folks here in the chat saying that they are excited. Hey, Josh, I see you here. I see that you are looking forward to this, and I was too, because I think that these service product that we're talking about today, it's a wonderful product. I really love everything that Cloudflare does. I'm a big fan of them. And yeah, I'm just excited for this. So before we start this, I'm going to wait a few minutes. You know the drill. Just throw me some messages here in the chat. Let me know, how are you doing? How was the week? You can say hi to the people. You can wish a wonderful weekend to everyone, or whatever you want. Nice. I'm gonna say hi, Josh. How you doing? Good morning to you. Fred, thank you for coming. Good morning from Florida. Pretty early there, right? It's 9 a.m. probably. Udipun. How do I pronounce your name? Udipun? Udipun? I wish that I pronounced it correctly. Hey, how you doing? Daniel, thank you for coming. Elsin, thank you for coming. Glenn, I saw that you just tweeted this. I just got the notification that you tweeted about this. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Glenn. Nice. Bido, how are you doing? Good morning from Toronto. Ooh, is it cold already there in Toronto, or still good weather? Because, we're in October. Sounds like it's going to be cold there. Yes, that's right. Okay, so I said your name right, Udipon. Cool. What country is that name from? Where are you from? Okay, hello from the UK. Nice. Oh, we've got two Glens here. Glen at the Flow and Glen Eastland. Now, Glen at the Flow. I don't know your last name, or maybe I do, but I don't remember it. I need to distinguish you guys now, because it's two of you. Nice. Yeah. Oh, cool. We've got Demetrius here. How you doing, Demetrius? Nice. Okay, so it's a name from India. Cool. I mean, your last name sounds Indian, but I am not very familiar with your name. I don't know how common that is in India, but it's cool. Hey, Joel. Nice. Glenn's tweet brought you here. Oh, cool. I should actually tweet this, or I will just retweet Glenn's tweet. That's faster. Glenn, I'm gonna use your work, and I'm gonna just retweet it, because you already did a marvelous job. Cool. Oh, look at that. We've got somebody from China. Hey, Shani. Shani? Oh, I don't want to botch your name. I apologize. Thank you for coming. Love that we've got people from China even. Yeah, at this point it's family days. I mean, every Friday, most of the people, repeat. Like, most of you come every Friday, which makes this very familiar, an environment that I love. Like, nice. Unusual to have more than one clan. Great. Yeah, it's absolutely nice to interact with people with similar passions. I do agree. Being in my position here, interacting with you guys, I don't know if you know about this, but it feels so grateful. It feels so good to be able to share things with people who have the same, the same. What would be the word? I'm gonna say passions. I wanted to say a different word, but that also works. Nice. Okay, cool. Same drive. Yeah. Love it. Yeah, same drive. Okay, but enough talking. It's 5 minutes past the time. Thank you, Gabe. Let's just dive into what we're talking about today, okay? You already know it. You know from the title, I made a very short intro at the beginning. Today we're talking about Cloudflare D1. Okay, Cloudflare D1 is just one of many services that Cloudflare provides for developers, specifically for building applications. Cloudflare has a lot of things related to building APIs, creating firewalls, storing objects, managing DNS. They have like a whole bunch of products. Look at this. API shields, bot protections, I don't know, DNS management, durable objects, firewalls, email routing. They've got a lot of things. And many of these services are related to, being able to build stuff. We want to build things, and Cloudflare helps us. And D1, it's one of these products. D1, essentially, it's a serverless database. Okay, so it's serverless SQLite, specifically SQLite. Okay, serverless SQL databases to query from your workers and pages projects. Okay, look at this for a second. To query from your workers and pages projects, because D1 it's a database product, but it's specifically made for workers, and pages, which are also two different services from Cloudflare. Which these two services, I think that at some point are gonna just be one. They're just gonna merge them because they are different, very similar in many cases, but that's a separate topic. The thing is that with these type of products with workers, we're able to create APIs at the edge. So essentially, Cloudflare, because it's a CDN, they've got a lot of servers around the world, and they're able to just store and serve data from each one of those places, which is probably very close to whatever your users are located. So at some point, they introduced this service of D1, which allows us to not only serve data through an API to the users, but also store data in databases, specifically in SQLite databases. Okay, there are many different types of SQL databases. We've got things like Postgres, SQL. We've got MySQL, and there are probably more. And SQLite, it's the one that V1 uses. Okay, most of these are similar in many cases, in the sense that they are all SQL instead of no SQL, but they change in some things in a sense on how the data is stored, like what types are available, what commands you can uh, push to the database, etc. Okay, but we'll talk about this in a second. So D1, it's this database service specifically made to be consumed from workers. I believe that it has an API, I think, to be able to query it from outside of workers, but where it really shines is when using it through workers. Well, we're going to see that in a second. Okay, brief quick question. Is D1 Cloudflare's response to services like PlanetScale, Xano, and some others? It would be similar to PlanetScale, not to Xano, because although Xano provides a SQL database, Xano, it's more than that. It's actually a full managed product that allows you to do many other things, because it's, around no code, and you've got a nice UI to create all the endpoints. So you serve those endpoints, and it has its own load balancing. It has everything to create APIs. In the case of D1, it's just the database service, as it would be PlanetScale, for example, or as it would be, for example, another one that it's becoming very popular, which is Terso. Terso, it's I would say that the one that it's closest to Cloudflare D1, it would be Terso, because it's also based on SQLite, I believe. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's based on SQLite. So yeah, Cloudflare D1 would be like a direct competitor to Terso in this case. Okay, great. I wonder if the worker is paid with the database to minimize the request speeds. Yes, and this is something that I wanted to talk about. Okay, so if you're familiar with Cloudflare workers, I'm going to talk about for a second about workers. Cloudflare workers are just a way to build APIs that are running on the edge. Okay, so if you've got your Cloudflare network. I think that they have a map that shows it. Let me see if I can see that. Come on. I might not find it. They had a world map where they displayed. Oh, here. Yeah, here. So because Cloudflare is a CDN and it has a lot of different locations in here, when you are building Cloudflare workers, those workers are always, unless you tell them otherwise, because there are ways to place them manually, they are going to be running close to your users, right? So in the case, imagine that I have an API that it's running Cloudflare workers, and I've got some users from the United States, some users from Kenya, from users from India. So the moment that a user visits my website and he makes a request from his browser to my um, Cloudflare Worker server, in that case, it's gonna run on the closest server. So let's imagine that somebody's living, I don't know, like here. Is this California here? Probably. So imagine that somebody's visiting my site from California. The closest server that it's going to run in case of a worker will be some of these. So it means that the response will be very fast when it comes to just providing the answer to that user. Now, the moment that we introduce Cloudflare D1, you have to be aware that Cloudflare D1, although it's serverless, it's not living on the edge yet. And that's something that confused me a bit because initially when they announced Cloudflare D1 beta, they announced that it would be on the edge, meaning that it's kind of like the data of the databases would be replicated across all the servers. So then, not only the worker was running close to the user, so if somebody from Spain like me was running making a request to my worker, the worker would have immediate access to the database also from Spain, instead of imagine that the database is living in the US, because now you've got a problem because the worker from Spain needs to go first to the US, query the database, and then it comes back to the worker in Spain, and then it responds to me in this case, right? And initially it was at least the way that I remember it was announced like this, but right now they don't say anything about edge, and they actually specify how the data location works. Okay, the moment that you from a worker consume a D1 database, that worker will run close to the D1 database. Okay, so the D1 database will be placed just in one place in the world. So imagine that, let's place that database here in Berlin or in Frankfurt, somewhere in Germany. If I consume my worker that it's querying the database from Spain, it's not going to run the worker that it's in Spain, this one. It's going to run the worker that it's next to my D1 location, which actually makes sense, because if you imagine this, imagine that we've got, yeah, I mean, it would make more sense if it was on the edge and the data was replicated. But in this case, it makes more sense because if you imagine that here it's me, this is me, like that, and this is the database, like that. So let's make the database maybe square, and let's make it red. This is the database. And let's imagine also that we've got the worker, and the worker, it's going to be a triangle, very ugly triangle, that it's green. Okay. So if I got my worker here, or here, let's put it in here. Okay. So it makes more sense. Imagine that I'm this in here located. This is the world. Okay. Just imagine that this is the map of the world. I'm located here. So if I make the request to a worker, like this, now we've got a problem. Oh, come on, give me a straight line here, because the worker needs to go to the database, and then the database will come back, and then the worker, it's coming back to me. So there's this whole trip that it's going first to the worker, and then the worker is going to the database, and the database coming back, and blah blah blah. Okay, so the moment that you define a location with D1, that we'll see now in a second, instead Cloudflare, what it does is, okay, this worker I know that it's going to be interacting with this database. So anytime that somebody wants to interact with this worker in specifically, I'm going to place this worker here. I mean, literally at the same place of the database, like it's on the same server. Because then the request, it just goes straight here, and it doesn't have to do any round trips with extra moving back and forth between going to one location, then going to the database, going back to the location, and then coming back here. So yeah, it's important to know that right now I'm speaking, it's 4th October 2024. This might change in the future. The data locations are unique for a D1 database. When creating the database, you can just let the Cloudflare decide for you where to put that database, which would be basically based on your location, or you can give it a location hint. Like you can say, hey, I want this database to live in Germany, or I want this database to live in New York. I actually don't know how many locations are available, but you could do something like that. Okay. Oh, cool. Thanks for the torso mention. Nice. Hey, Kieran. Thanks for coming. Said currently client CDN worker closest CDN request from root D1 location. Yes, but keep in mind this that I mentioned when you're placing something close to the database. Do you know if it then still has some failover in case of location outage? I would guess so, but actually don't know for sure. I know for sure that when Cloudflare has some issues, what they do is they reroute things, as you can see here. They sometimes they do this, like maybe there's some maintenance or some downtime, they reroute the requests. So the requests never stop being served. It's just that they just serve them from different workers. That's it. Yep. Cool. Okay. Couple more things, and then we'll just start coding, because actually I want to show you guys. Cool. Okay, so SQLite, we're going to see this in a second, but essentially SQLite, as I mentioned, it's a one type of SQL database that exists. In my opinion, it's very cool because it's very fast and it's very small and it's very portable. You're going to see that in a second because it's just very simple. And always, to me, simple is better. Like always. I know that with my MySQL or with my Postgres, there's some functionalities that you don't have in SQLite. But with SQLite, you just have the very basic primitives that you need to store and query data, which is essentially that in a SQLite database, we've got just 5 types, and that's it. We don't need to care about, if a character is a specific length or if a number it's an amount of specific bytes. Like, I really don't have to care about this. I just have null types, integer types, real types in case that I need something that it's signed or that it has decimals. And then I just have text and blobs. That's it. Even there isn't even booleans, because booleans are just zeros and ones, which are just integers, right? So it's very, very simple to think about mentally. How do I store the data? Is it a text? Okay, then it's a text. That's it. I don't have to care about anything else. Or is it a number? Then okay, it's a number. That's it. Not a lot of things that you have to take into consideration when building this. And then the last thing that I think that it's very cool from this service is that they have something that it's called time travel. So usually when you have databases, you usually worry about, okay, but I got the database, but I need to worry about backups, right? Like, what if I fuck up something, or what if I drop the table, like I do something that I just messes something, or that I store the data incorrectly, or that somebody finds a bug and it's able to push the data the way that I was not expecting, or simply that I just want to revert to some point in the past. There are no backups in D1. there's something that is even better, which is time travel. Time travel, essentially, it's just a way to travel to the past to query the database at some point in the past. So time travels, it's D1's approach to backups and point-in-time recovery, and allows you to restore a database to any minute within the last 30 days. So essentially, if I fuck up for some reason, I can just tell Cloudflare, hey, recover my database at this day, at this hour, at this minute. And that's it. Like, no backups, things like you just tell Cloudflare this and it's gonna recover it. I think that you can even query it without recovering it, I believe. So it's very, very, very convenient when you're dealing with sensitive data and stuff that could potentially break. Okay. Yeah, it's very, very nice. Joel's saying you can forget about it so much when working with SQLite, especially when D1 and Terso handle the traditional issues associated with SQLite. Yeah, yeah. Like, for example, you've got JSON functions. If you need to, you can store things very similar. It's bliss. Nice. As it's a file, you would traditionally have issues when writing concurrently. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You mean about, concurrency, but they just handle everything for you. Yeah, correct. So if SQLite was hosted by me in my own server, in that case, it's not as simple because SQLite, it's essentially just a file. Like, it could be something like db.sql, like this, or SQLite. I don't remember exactly the extension. But the thing is that usually then, because it's a file, then you've got a server that is accessing that file, but maybe, you've got a lot of requests and somebody comes before the other one. Like, things could be messed up a bit. But Cloudflare D1 and Terso also, as Joel was mentioning, just handle this for you. You just don't have to worry about this. You just use it. Like, don't have to worry about, load balancing this, handling concurrency, handling, worrying about the database being disconnected. Like, just forget about this stuff. Just plug and play, use it. Okay. Nice. Okay. Let's just do a hands-on. Okay. What I'm going to do now, just for the sake of explaining things so you understand it, I'm going to follow the getting started tutorial from D1. But if I have some time, I want to show you how I like to use Cloudflare D1, which is using Drizzle. Drizzle is an ORM that just makes it very simple to do a lot of things like the queries, to create migrations, to define a schema. It's very simple once you know how to use it, and simplifies a lot of things. Like, you don't have to think about manually writing a lot of things for you. But for now, because I want you to understand the concept of using D1 inside Cloudflare Workers, let's just follow the tutorial from D1. Okay. Let me read the comments for a second, and then we'll just dive into it. John from South Africa, thank you for coming. Nice. The more I've grown into my career, the more I'm comfortable with allowing these large enterprises to figure out the best way to do these simple services, and then just paying for the hard work. Yes, but at the same time, also what I appreciate from Cloudflare is that they are pretty cheap. Like, they don't try to overcharge you. They just well, unless you need to go in enterprise, but that's a separate topic. But like, the services are like so fucking cheap, and they keep just pushing updates to make them even cheaper. Like, I think that the pricing for D1, it's like, look at it, for just in the base plan, you've got 25 billion rows to read, and then you just pay 1/10 of a cent for each million rows read. It's like, it's just amazingly cheap. And if you combine that with Workers, which is also just cheap as hell, it's just, you've got a service that most of the time you're not even going to pay a dime to it unless you just really grow a lot. So it's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, great. This guide instructs you through creating your first database in D1, creating a schema and querying your database, and then connecting to a Cloudflare worker. It's exactly what we want to do right now. Okay, so prerequisites: we need to have a Cloudflare account. I do have it. We need to have Node.js, and you would probably want to install Wrangler, but we'll see that in a second. Okay, so first of all, let's just do this. Let's create a worker, and in this case, Cloudflare has some templates for us, so I'm just going to do that. I'm going to do pnpm create Cloudflare at latest, and then I'm just going to do it in here, which I already have a folder that I've created. I've opened VS Code, so I'm ready to start. If you haven't done this yet, just go ahead, create a folder, open a terminal, just open it in VS Code, or use whatever of your preference. So let's just do this. pnpm create Cloudflare latest, and I'm going to write a dot saying that I want it to be in this folder, in stream Cloudflare D1. Okay, great. And this is just going to tell me, hey, what would you like to start with? The hello world template, blah, 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 blah. I think that they use the hello world template. Yes, correct. And do we need anything? Hello world worker. Let's use that. I'm going to use TypeScript because I always like to use TypeScript. You just get used to it. So great. And I think that that's it. It just did everything for me. I am not going to enable version control because it's just for this live stream. But if you're going to create a project, you probably want to use version control. Okay. Do you want to deploy your application? I think that I'm going to say no for now. We don't need to deploy it now. Let me clear this, and I'm going to run pnpm install. So it installs everything for me. Okay, great. Okay, so this is a basic template worker. Okay, we're not using D1 yet. Okay, this is not D1. This is actually Cloudflare workers. If I come here, you're going to see that it has a bunch of scripts here to already develop this, to run it locally. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to do pnpm dev just for the sake of seeing exactly what I'm dealing with here. And I'm going to hit B to open a browser, okay? Or I could just click on this link, which is the same. If I open this, now here I'm getting these hello world, yay, message, okay? This message is because we now have an API that is managed by Cloudflare workers that is just saying, hey, when we've got a request, return a response of hello world, like that. Let me zoom in a bit more, like that. Very, very simple, okay? If I could see here, hello, who's the last who sent the message? Demetrius. If I say this and I save it and I refresh here, now I'm saying hi to Demetrius, okay? I wish there was an app that abstracts everything and it's a shapeshifter, a UI for all the possible choices, serverless or serverful, SQLite or Postgres, no code or just SSDK BI. Ooh, you're asking for something that it's hard as hell. Like, because most of the times you need opinionated things, or you need to give a lot of controls to people, which is very hard to put on a UI. But I mean, if you want everything, you just go to AWS. But I really fucking hate AWS. It's just so confusing to use. But anyways, off topic. Sorry. So let's follow along again with here. So we've got these template. We've got these files that were created. Oh, Joel, I think the refined team are trying to solve this. Nice. I'm going to look at that later. Cool. So we've got this. We see it. Now let's create a database. Okay. We could just do it from the dashboard, actually. Should we do it from the dashboard? Let's do it from the dashboard for now. Okay. I'm going to do it from the dashboard, because then you can also see just how cool, how simple it is. But after that, I want to show you how to do it with code, actually. So I've got my personal account here. I'm just going to go down here, workers. Let me zoom in a bit. And you will see how there's this D1 SQL database. I even have here some test database that I need to get rid of. But anyways, I'm going to create just a new database here. We could do it again. We could do it from the terminal, which is probably what you want to do if you want to do a production project. But for now, just to show you things, let's create this. And let's call this, what are they doing? Production D1 tutorial. Let's just do, stream D1, Cloudflare D1, like that. Okay. Okay, look at this. So when we are creating this, we can provide a location hint. So if I don't say anything, Cloudflare will see that I'm right now located in Spain. And because I'm in Spain, it will probably assign a location that it's close to me, which I would say that it's Western Europe. But if for some reason you need, like maybe you live in North America or in Asia, and you know for sure that your database should be in Europe because of GDPR compliance, for example, you can tell it here. You can say, hey, I really want to have the database in Western Europe. Okay. And then it's just going to sign it there. Okay. I'm going to sign it like that. Yeah, location hints are very necessary, especially when you want to deal with, compliance, regional compliance. Great. Okay, so we've got some tables here. We've got the console, which allows us to query the database directly. And then we've got some time travel here, metrics, and settings. Okay, so let's create a table. What table did they want us to create here? I think that one second. Yeah, I want to do that. Okay, here. So they create a customers table. Let's just create something. I don't know. Guys, give me an idea. What table should we create? The example uses a customer's example. We could do that, or we could just do something different. Up to you. I'm giving you 10 seconds. If not, I'm just going to use customers. Orders. Okay, Josh was the first one. Let's do orders. You guys were too slow. Josh was the first. Okay, column name. Okay, so let's create, first of all, let's do the ID. Okay, and I'm going to set that as primary key because it's going to be our ID. Default value, no need. Actually, can we do auto incrementing here? Integer primary ID, primary key. Maybe it doesn't auto incrementing by default. I should see that. But anyways, that works. Okay, so ID, and then let's do column name. Maybe we could do customer ID because it's orders, right? And that could be also an integer. And by the way, there's a way of defining foreign references, but I think that not directly from the UI. That's why probably you want to do this using a proper migration, but we'll talk about it in a second. Okay, so customer ID, and let's just do the, I don't know, product ID maybe. And actually, let's it. Okay, maybe quantity we could do. I'm not gonna point product ID. Let's just say description. I know that it's not a proper order. Don't make fun of me. I'm just trying to simplify things. Let's do description. Let's do quantity. Let's call this product maybe. Ideally, we would have a different table for the products, but I'm too lazy. Quantity, and maybe we could do price. Okay, so the product could be just text for now, and then the quantity is going to be an integer. The price is going to be a real because I want to have decimals in the price. The customer ID can be fine. The ID can also like that, and I want this to be the primary key. Done. Okay, let's create this, and now we'll have our table here. Just like that, okay? Very simple. So I've got my orders here, and I even can add data directly from here. So let's just add something. I'm gonna create a first ID. Yeah, definitely there's a way of adding auto increment, but it cannot be done from the dashboard. You actually need to write a SQL query. Okay, customer ID, this is gonna be customer number 1. The product is gonna be drop Drownsy. Could have been. The product is going to be, I don't know, what can it be, the product? It can be a Pokemon cookie. I'll just make a cookie. Pokemon cookie. I'm just combining things that you said in the comments. It's going to be 1, and the price is going to be $20.31. I don't know. Okay? Just like that. Okay, cool. So we've got here our data. Nice. Now, things that I could do if I wanted to. We'll see now how to consume it from a worker. But if you just want to see what's in your database, you've got here a console where you can actually just write any SQLite queries if you want to. So if I want, I can come here and I can say select everything from orders. Yeah, that's it, like no filters. Okay. And if I do this, then it's just going to return me this. Or I could just select everything from orders where the product is equals to Pokemon cookie, which should return the same product. Yeah, same order. Okay. So very simple. Just do quick queries here if you want to. But let's go back to the tutorial. Let's continue doing things because there's more to do. Great. Okay. So first of all, we need to bind the worker to the database. Okay. So if we go back to the project, remember that we've got this wrangler.toml file. This is a file that defines everything of my Cloudflare worker. So here I'm defining, the compatibilities, the main entry source, the name of the worker, but also we define things like if we want environment variables, if we are going to be using some databases or KB stores or durable objects, or like there's a lot of things that we can configure here. And let me see if we have already some D1 thing for here. D1. Yes, we do. So I'm just gonna comment this because it's already here. So nice. So the binding in this case, let's just call it, we can call it actually however we want. How do they call it? DB. Okay, boring. The database name has to be the one that we did here, which is stream Cloudflare D1. So database name, stream Cloudflare D1, and the database ID, it's this one, like that. Okay. So now we are binding this database that we've created to my worker, because then I can access it. Okay. So we are ready to use it actually. So here we can run a query against the D1 database. So first of all, they created the database. We've done that, so no need to do it for now. Although I'm going to revisit this because I want to create it properly later. We can do it with Drizzle. And then they just create the table with the command here, and they dump some content. It's absolutely fine. And then they write the queries here, like that. Okay. Now, the thing is that if you notice this, the database that we've created, it's living directly in Cloudflare. Okay. So here, I'm just going to reuse this. I've got my computer. Okay. And I've got Cloudflare here. So this is Cloudflare. The database, it's living right now in Cloudflare because we've created it from the dashboard. So if I want to run local tests, because this is my computer, because the database right now it's only existing in Cloudflare, I need to consume that from my computer directly to Cloudflare instead of doing it locally. Okay, I could technically create the database locally too. Okay, so I could come here and I could say, let's actually do it. Let's actually just say, let's create a file and let's call these, what do I call it? Schema. Okay, let's do schema. Schema.sql. You'll see in a second. This is going to make sense. And I'm just going to ask ChatGPT because I'm lazy. Create a SQLite table name orders that contains the column ID, customer ID, product, quantity, and price. Oh my God, I just messed. Really? Did I delete it? SQLite. Sorry, guys, I'm gonna have to write it again. My bad. SQLite table that name orders that contains. No, I tried the undo. Didn't work. Sorry. A column ID, customer ID, product, quantity, and price, like that. Nice. Actually, I could have written that, but anyways. Okay, so integer primary key, yes. Integer text, integer real. Oh, nice. Okay, so we've got this. This is just a query that's saying, hey, create this table. And now what I can do is I can actually run this locally. So then I will have a local SQLite database in here. So essentially we'll have, Let me go back here. We'll have still the database that's living here. Yeah, auto number. If I wanted to do it, but I'm just trying to match what I created here, which is it doesn't have an auto number. So now I will also have a local version of my database. Okay, so if we come here, we've got these command here: Wrangler D1 execute production D1. Well, in this case, it would be stream Cloudflare D1. Local, which I'm saying, hey, just use this locally, and then use this file in here. Okay, so gonna come here, pm dlx, because I use pm D1 execute, and the database name is stream Cloudflare D1. So just do this, and what else? Local, and the file, it will be schema.sql, like that. No versions available for D1. The package might be unpublished. Oh, sorry. Wrangler, like that. Now we're talking. No, ideally you would do this like I did it from the beginning. I really don't recommend to use the dashboard to create the tables unless you're doing a live stream and you're trying to show people. But really, if you want to do things right, just create it directly from your code base, because you can do it both locally and you can do it remotely at the same time. And also, we'll talk about it. I don't know if we'll have time today, but when we get into the drizzle ORM, I will also talk about migrations, because D1 has the ability to do migrations. I think that it's here. Migrations is a way to basically version your database to have a unified definition of your tables, of your schema. But for now, let's just focus on this. So now that I've done this, look what happened. Locally, now I've got this. So Wrangler, because I've run this locally, we've got this Wrangler folder that it's just .wrangler. And then inside the Wrangler folder, we've got some temp things, but also we've got a folder that it's called state, and then it contains the D1 folder that it contains just the database that we're using. Okay, and I can watch the database like this because I have an extension, a VS Code extension that it's called SQLite, I think. SQLite 3 editor. If you don't have an extension to open SQLite files, this will not look like this. But it's a cool extension. You can use it. Okay. So essentially now I've got my own local database that it's also using the same schema because we defined it in here. Okay. So for now, just for the sake of testing this, because I'm going to be doing local tests, let's just create again the same thing. So I'm going to do ID of one. Let's pull this up. ID of one, customer ID of one, product. It's going to be Finsweet cookie. I think that it was something different. It was a Pokemon cookie. Anyways, quantity one, and the price is going to be $30.5. Okay, let's commit this. Nice. So we've got now our database with our order in here. Now we are ready to use it. So let's just use it. What I'm going to do is let's just continue with the tutorial, get started. We are here. And remember that we already binded this. So we've got this binding called DB for a database name, stream Cloudflare D1. That's important. And the database ID, it's this, okay? Remember that when we created the local database, we also called it the same. This is important because otherwise it's not gonna bind it the same, okay? So now what I want to do is just update the API to be able to consume this. So because I'm using TypeScript, I'm going to create this type definition. And actually, I'm just going to do this. Just going to copy and paste. So this env, like that, it contains the definitions for all my bindings in Cloudflare. And now this includes DB. Now, if you want to call this different, if you want to call this like my database, this name is important to also be reflected here in Wrangler. Okay, so if I want to call this my database, it has to be called like that in Wrangler.toml too. Keep that in mind, like that. So we've got this, and now we can just query. Do we have the binding directly? Nice. Yes, we have. So let's just do directly. Let's just return this. So let's do orders, and we're gonna do env.mydatabase, and we're gonna prepare this. So when you prepare this, it's just to create the query. So then also later you can inject values to avoid SQL injection attacks. But hold on a second, I'm going to explain that. So for now, let's just do a basic query. Let's just do this. So prepare, select everything from orders, and then a dot, and I'm going to say all, like that. We could be querying like maybe just the first. If I do this, it would just return the first one, or I could do all. So actually, let's create another one because otherwise it doesn't make sense. ID of 2, customer ID of 1, product, it's going to be what product? Joel's cap. Quantity 1, price $3,000. Okay, cool. So if I do this, if I do this, now I should be getting these two orders that we've got here because we don't have any filters. We just have select everything from orders. And I think that this is a sync. Yes, we need to await this. So now return new response. And I'm just gonna JSON stringify the orders and content application JSON, okay? Like that. Oh, actually, there's a response.json, sorry. Yeah, response.json. Simpler. Results. Yeah, when you do the query, results. Now, so when you do the query, you actually can destruct it because it contains a bunch of things. So it has the results, but also has metadata, and it tells you if it was successful or not, or if it has an error. So that's convenient. But for now, we just want to get the results, and we're gonna just return that. So let's go back here. PM. Let me clear this. Let's do pm dev, and now you will see how here we are getting the data. Yay! Very simple, I know. Very simple, but you know, simple, it's cool. So now that we can do this, we could, for example, do some query with filters. So let's do where, and actually I'm gonna break this down into a line. Select everything from orders. Let's make it clear here like that. Where, and the product, it's equals to this question mark, okay? When we do this, when we inject a question mark, exactly like it happens in here, this question mark, it's a placeholder. So we're telling, hey, this is my statement, select everything from orders where the product is equal to whatever I'm gonna tell you, okay? And because this placeholder, it's kind of like a slot, we can now pass it things. So we can say bind, and binding here allows us to pass a value to here. If we had multiple of these, so if we did and where and status equals to this, so if we want to do multiple, then you just do commas and you pass multiple. So here we'd say Finsweet cookie, and if we did have status, which we don't, we could do, for example, active. Okay, first question mark, first binding, second question mark, second binding. But I'm gonna get rid of this because this does not exist. Just like that. Okay, so if we did it right, we should return all, and we should see how it only returns. Oh, doesn't return anything. Hold on. Where product equals to by Finsweet cookie. Oh, because I said cocky. This should be cookie. Like that. Now, okay. Hold on, let me read the comments here. Not database specific, I just trusted your judgment. I see that you have some funds. Cocky. He's got some fans, Joel. I don't want to spam the chat with tools. I will publish a Twitter post tomorrow. Nice. Yeah, just go and follow Joel. He always posts about nice things. Typo. Yeah, thank you, Glenn. Cool. Okay. So now we know about how to, how to use this, how to set up the database, how we query the database, drop your Agile. He did. It's that 0xJJW. I'm gonna tell you, Joel, it's not an easy name to remember. It's not an easy name to find out unless you know your name and you look for Joel Whitaker. Okay, cool. So the next thing that I would want to talk about is actually migrations, but I want to involve Drizzle or AM here in the process. Let me see if there's anything else here. Yeah, we could deploy this. Actually, let's just deploy it for a second, because then we can also test it how fast it is when not running it locally, but actually running from the edge. So to deploy this, I could simply do pm wrangler deploy. So we've got the command here ready. The command is wrangler deploy, but I think that we'll have to log in because I logged out. So let me try this, pm deploy. Actually, pm run deploy. And this will tell me that I need to log in into Cloudflare. So I will just have this nice UI that it's telling me, hey, you should be logging in here. Cool. Okay, cool. And this should be deployed to a worker that's called stream Cloudflare D1. Nice. Uploaded. Current version. Let's open this. And yeah, okay. So this is working fine. The only downside is that now this is looking for something that it's called Finsweet cookie. So let's go back to the dashboard here, because we don't have any product that's called Finsweet cookie. We just have Pokemon cookie. Can I update this? Let's just update this here. Let's call this Finsweet cookie. Nice. Quantity 1. Yep. And now if I refresh this, look at that. Yeah, we've got the query. Okay. So now this is coming from Cloudflare. Okay. This is coming directly from the servers, from Cloudflare's endpoints. So look at this. It takes 57 milliseconds to query. Look at that. So this whole response, which I know that it's not much, because we're just reading one row from a database, but it's pretty nifty that we've got an API endpoint that is receiving a request. It's querying a database, it's grabbing the data, and it's responding that to me in 57 milliseconds. It's pretty amazing. 92, 64, 68, 63, 65. I would say that maybe the average it's about 60-ish milliseconds. Some of these are less, some of these are more, but it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. We use it for a bunch of things at Finsweet. For example, the Finsweet components that we just launched recently. The way that we store the licenses, and we check for the licenses here, it just takes also 80 milliseconds, maybe 100 milliseconds at tops, and it just queries through a lot of different a lot of rows where we have stored all the info of the subscriptions. So yeah, it's pretty performant, and you saw it's just very, very simple to use, literally just 8 lines of code. Oh, Yash, thank you for coming. Cool. Okay, so I've got about 5 minutes, but I really want to talk about using Drizzle or AM and doing migrations for Cloudflare. But this will take me, not 5 minutes, definitely. Because really, the moment that we plug in Drizzle here, you will see how really powerful and easy it is to use things. It's just so easy because Drizzle does a lot of things that we just had to do manually, like writing these where is it? Like writing the schema manually. Like we really don't want to do this. We want a tool that does it for us, and Drizzle will be the one. Same as in here where we wrote the query. This query, we don't really have to write it manually ourselves. We can just have a tool that does it for us. Okay. So next live stream is going to be about plugging in Drizzle and managing migrations, because migrations to me was one of the things that confused me more when I started working with D1 and Drizzle together. So I hopefully will be able to explain it correctly so you guys understand it. Glenn, is there an auth solution inside Cloudflare we could use to protect these endpoints? Yes. Well, not inside Cloudflare, but it's a solution that pairs very well with Cloudflare D1. Maybe we could do it next live stream. Maybe next live stream we could do. I'm gonna plan three things. I'm gonna plan Drizzle ORM. I'm gonna plan to talk about migrations, and I'm gonna plan about talking about Lucia auth. Uh, Lucia auth, it's a library that it was originally designed specifically for Cloudflare workers that allows us to, implement authentication for any type of runtime and database. And they have a binding specifically for Cloudflare, and they have, extensive um, tutorials for working with Cloudflare. So database, you can see here, they work with Drizzle. They also work with SQLite, which is nice, which supports Cloudflare D1. So we're gonna do all together. I'm gonna involve Drizzle. I'm gonna involve SQLite. Well, not SQLite. Sorry, the SQLite adapter for Lucia, and also we can talk about migrations. Okay, but that's happening next Friday because I don't want to bore you guys today. You probably have other things to do. Great. I want to see how you implement it as someone who works with Webflow and everything. All the tutorials I find are so disjointed from how we work as Webflow. Okay, I will have that in mind. Nice. Is the library or worker size affecting worker speed? I'm a little confused. For example, you have a heavy worker. Will this impact the speed? I mean, what do you mean by heavy worker? Because it could be something, because if you have a worker that is just 5 lines of code, but those 5 lines of code, they have an infinite loop, then the worker will be, slow as hell. But if you have a worker that it has like 5,000 lines of code, but the code is optimized and it just knows straight where to go, then it's just going to be small, simple as hell. In the case of just size, like how many kilobytes it's really not a problem. Actually, workers, I think that they have a limit of 1 megabyte, so you cannot really go over that. But if the code is pretty heavy, like you don't really have to worry because Cloudflare caches that very strongly in their servers. Like it doesn't take that much to just spin up a 1 megabyte code. If it's cached, then it doesn't have to download it. So I really wouldn't worry that much about the amount of dependencies that you're installing. I would worry about the quality of the code that you're writing. So, if you're trying to do something and you write spaghetti code to achieve that, then that something it's going to be slow because of your spaghetti code. It's not going to be slow because you use a dependency, unless the dependency also is bad. But, it's like web things that, you just have to care about making things performant, but not worry that much about the weight of the things. If you're worried about a heavy response that doesn't change too often, Hono.js will support caching more easily out of the box for endpoints. Yeah, well, Hono is just a simpler way of implementing this with routes. But Hono is just a wrapper on top of this. Like if I come here and I say, hey, if the request dot URL it's equals to, orders, actually it should be, because this is probably, it's probably the full path. But let's just pretend that this is the path name. Like you run some logic here, and then if the request URL is something different, like Hono.js is basically just doing this for you. Instead of you having to write all these if-else statements, it just implements a router that says, okay, this is the endpoint that they're querying. So then I know that it has to run this block of code. But that's it. Like if you can do everything that Hono can do for you, if you write it yourself here in Cloudflare Workers, just Hono makes it easy. Maybe we can talk about that too. There's more live streams that have talked about Hono.js in the past. So if you look, like, I don't know, something like Finsweet, Cloudflare, Hono in YouTube, there might be some videos in there that I did a while ago. Yeah, the cache middleware, it's nice. Yeah, it's very easy to use. It's a wrapper of the thing that it's cache default. The Cloudflare workers have a cache API that it's built in here. The cache middleware of Hono is just a simple way of caching things using that built-in API. Very simple to use. Yes, I do agree. Okay, cool. Enough talking. You guys should go and live your life. I'm going to go and live mine. But see you next Friday. Please come because it's going to be fun. I'm going to talk about all of these that I mentioned here like that. Okay. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. And I wish that you have a nice weekend. See you soon. Goodbye all.